Right, welcome back everyone to Author Story. I'm your host Alexander Lim, and our guests actually for this episode, are Paul Smith and Kenny Tedford Jr. They are the co-authors of this episode's featured book, 4 Days with Kenny Tedford, which you can check out by clicking on the Amazon link in the video description below. Paul Smith is one of Incorporated Magazine's top 100 leadership speakers for 2018 and is a former executive at Procter& Gamble. Kenny is a motivational speaker, actor, comedian, counselor, and former executive director of the Tennessee Council for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So, Paul and Kenny, welcome to Author Story. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
It's good to be here. I'm excited.
Cool. Thanks. So, just so our listeners know what exactly is up with Kenny, so let me just summarize by saying that he's deaf in both ears, legally blind one eye, among other things, due to being born with brain damage due to oxygen deprivation while he was still in the uterus. So he also has a cognitive impairment, and which makes him something like the character of Forrest Gump. So I'm just saying this for the benefit of our listeners so they know what the score is as this interview goes along. All right.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. So, Kenny, a little bit about yourself. What was it like growing up, Kenny? I mean, given what I mentioned, your childhood wasn't exactly what one would call average.
He's asking what your childhood was like because it probably wasn't normal.
Yes, growing up, my mother had 9 children,
Hmm.
and I was the only one born with deafness and brain damage and all the other issues.
Right.
She fell down a flight of steps, and that biblical cord, whatever it is, comes out of the woman's belly.
Right. Right.
You know, and, yeah, okay, strangled around my neck, and so they had to open her up, and I was born 2 months early,
Oh,
2 months premature. I
okay.
used to say 7 months, and everybody said that makes sense,
Right.
So,
Right.
so learning was, I didn't learn sign language till 21.
Hmm.
And so my family gathering and stuff, I was never really included.
Hmm.
They loved me and all, but everybody taller than I was. My
Right. Right. Right.
parents,
Right.
I was
Right.
8. So both my parents died when I was 8 years old.
Oh,
And then we
okay.
went from Dallas, Texas to live in Memphis, Tennessee.
Hmm.
And then my foster parents, my foster mother is my father's sister, and Jessie. But
Hmm.
it was my uncle that called me names all the time, retarded, worthless, and I wasn't going to amount to anything.
Hmm.
And so did the public school, the principal, a psychiatrist that comes in and look at our drawings. It's a long story there, but it's in the book.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
then I was bullied quite a bit. And that's why people can sneak up behind me because I'm deaf, so I can't hear. So I got jumped a lot, and just part of growing up. And then, but I felt sorry for everybody else. I didn't know why they were doing it. And when they put me in retarded class, and everybody called me retarded,
Hmm.
I didn't know what the word meant. I was like a
Hmm.
child,
Hmm.
and that's where I feel like I am today. That's what the book is all about. Like
Right.
I'm growing up as a man, but my inner child never grew up.
Right.
So that's who I am. I'm actually my inner child. I
Okay.
try to act like a man, but it doesn't seem to work.
Okay.
So
All right. Okay. So, what I'd really like to know is, you did mention that you were bullied and all that stuff, and it could have been so easy to say, the whole world's against me, or I'm hopeless, I'll never amount to anything like that. What was it about yourself that enabled you to react to the situation in the way that you do right now?
He's asking why you weren't angry that the world treated you badly.
Well, basically, kind of what I just said, you might have to have it explained. But when I don't understand what the word is, I hope this is okay if I say this. But when I was a teenager, I used to play football,
Hmm.
gymnastics. I
Right.
wrestled. Can't tell by looking at me, but back before I was in good shape. But
Right.
this is in high school. And we were walking home one day, just to give you an example. This is before and after, even today. There's some other guys passing us. They were bullies.
Hmm.
And one of the, oh, look at the mother effer.
Hmm.
And I'm going, oh, okay. And I don't know what that meant. And I'm in high school. And
Right.
so my
Right.
other two friends grabbed him and held on to him and told me to hit him, beat him.
Hmm.
And I said, why are y'all so mad at him? He's talking to me, not you. And so
Okay.
my concept, why did everybody get mad at somebody else? If you bully me, why would Paul need to get involved to beat you up? That's
Right.
my job.
Hmm.
Instead, I felt you because you don't even know me, but you're calling me that word.
Right.
So I'm thinking, I don't even know. The other part is I don't know what it means.
Mm.
So I'm now 66. I'll never be your daddy, I guess. I don't know. But
Right.
today, it's the same thing.
Mm.
I don't understand a lot of words and
Mm.
sentences, and Paul knows that now. And so I'm still a child. I'm 66, and I love it. I just can't wait to get older. But um, I care the love that's in me. I'm giving it all my brothers and sisters, and so if I don't understand what you're doing or saying to me, why would I get mad? Because I don't know what you're doing.
Mm. Okay. Very
All my
interesting.
kids blab.
Very interesting. I mean, because I know a lot of folks, they get treated the way you do. I mean, they get mad, but it's a very interesting take, and and you wear it well. You handle it well.
Yeah. Thank you. Say thank
Oh, thank you.
Okay, cool. So Kenny, again, another question for Kenny. How did you get started on the road to becoming the storyteller you are now? Was there one incident or one event that started it all?
He's asking how you got started being a storyteller, and was there one event that made you want to be a storyteller?
The magical crayon. And
Um,
then kind of like a
yeah.
beginning, but as I
Okay.
got older, when I was a boy, even in elementary, just to give you an example,
Hmm.
um, I've always been told I had, and I still do today, I have a speech impediment.
Right.
Um, and so, um, but I am who I am. So when I was a little boy, we don't have that much time. I, I was in elementary and I drew a picture of a butterfly and had a woman on it. And the counselor back in the day got a look at your picture and he was just blown away by the color that I used. But you have to hear the whole story. But the picture was beautiful. I love to be creative, but they said I never could be creative. But my teachers, even my mom and dad told me and friends that I was the funniest person they've ever met. They say, everybody tells me today I got a goofy face and people
Okay.
laugh all the time. And so, and when I was younger, I thought you was laughing at me because I was labeled retarded. But as I got older, I realized you're laughing with me. And so now I'm being called a comedian. So a
Okay.
lot of people, like corporations, would say, come and we want you to do a comedy show for our convention. And I
Mm.
have to say, I don't do comedy. Well,
Right.
talk about your life. And I'm going, oh, great.
So the part that he left out was that this was when he was in the third grade
Okay.
When
with the
I,
magical crayon.
second,
Second grade.
Okay.
The teacher that had only given him 2 or 3 crayons to draw with, whereas the other kids had, a 64 color box of
Right.
24 by
24 box of
24.
crayons.
Right. Right.
Anyway, so the pictures he drew were not very impressive.
I just had 3 colors.
Yeah, well, eventually one teacher pulled him aside and gave him a better box of crayons, and he was able to draw much better pictures like all the other boys and girls. And he ended up drawing a picture of a beautiful butterfly with a woman on it. And when the psychologist asked him why there was a woman on the butterfly, he said, that's my mother, and she's there so she can fly around this room and make sure you give me an A+ this time instead of the
Right.
D you gave me last time. And he ended up making a whole story out of it, and that was one of his earliest experiences telling a story, and he's been doing it ever since. In fact,
Nice.
today he actually, even though they told him, of course, at the time that he would probably never finish the third grade,
Right.
today he has a master's degree in storytelling.
Right.
So, in fact, he's one of only 2 people in the world who are deaf who have a master's degree in storytelling. So he's not only, I think, a naturally gifted storyteller, but he's very highly educated in the art and science of storytelling as well.
Yeah. And that actually brings me up to the next question I'd like to ask. I mean, what made you, Kenny, decide to get that master's degree? I mean, wasn't telling stories enough for you?
Why did you get the master's degree in storytelling?
Well, it wasn't my plan. I'd actually worked with the governor of Tennessee for 6 years. I was the director for the deaf, hard of hearing, deaf, blind. I just got my BA in theater. I'm an actor, and I loved that. I was happy in Knoxville, Tennessee, it's another town, and everybody was telling me about this only master storytelling degree in the world, and it's at East Tennessee State University in
Right.
Johnson City, Tennessee. So everybody would push me to go get it, because you're gifted and if you have a master on your resume, you can get any kind of job.
Right.
So I thought, oh, what the heck? So I
Right.
went ahead and got a master, but I never thought I thought everybody was crazy. But then I did great. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I did over 3,000 kids
Wow.
from pre-kindergarten all the way up to college. And then I would get invited to speak at convention. And somebody said, you need to stop working anywhere and you be a full-time motivational speaker.
Right.
But now everybody calls me a Canadian, so I haven't figured that one out yet, but I'm working on it.
All right,
So,
cool. Well, I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out sooner or later. Nice. Okay, so again, another question for Kenny. Do you have a process for creating stories, or does this all just come natural to you?
Do you have a process to create your stories?
well, no, actually, that's what I was having trouble when I was getting my master.
Right,
The head of the chairman, I guess that's what you call him, named Dr. Schobel.
right,
He was running the program, and he would always, we got to critique. You got to practice in front of the class before you go out in public. And I told him I can't do it because I don't like to. I don't prepare. I have
right,
never got prepared for any of my stories.
right,
It could be I could be gave me a book right now and I read one story right now,
right,
close the book and I could perform it,
mhm,
bring the character to life.
right,
I'm the book. It's like you don't have to look at the picture on the book. Watch me. And like
right,
Cinderella and all the fairy tales, I
mhm,
become Cinderella, the
mhm.
stepsister, the
Okay,
stepmother, the godmother, the prince. So I changed my whole character and I changed my voice, but I don't hear my voice that well. It's just coming out, and that's all I hear, echo. And so when I see people laughing and when I tell a story about my trauma, of all the things that I went through to make it to this point,
mhm,
a lot of people cry. I mean, there have been several people sing the book, and they get to the third or fourth chapter, and they'll send Paul an email just saying, "I'm on the fifth chapter, and I'm crying. I'm
right,
laughing. I want to,
right,
And so, to me, I guess I truly believe it's the gift God's given me.
right.
I really
And
believe that.
right, and I mean, you do touch people with your stories, as you mentioned.
Yeah, he definitely touches his audiences, and yeah. So I'm a professional speaker as well, and I can
Right.
tell you I'm fairly jealous of the reaction that he gets on stage versus what I get.
Okay.
People like me, but they love him.
Okay. Okay. All right.
That's
Cool.
debatable. But anyway, I just feel like when I watch other people tell stories, I think they practice, they memorize it, they got
Right.
research. Me, I want you to feel when you see me tell a story. If I ever came over to your country to speak, I
Right.
want everybody in the audience feel the heart pumping.
Hmm.
When I fell off the cliff and broke my neck, I want you to feel that pain in your neck, and then look what I became. So I'm telling everybody, anybody who's been called dumb, stupid, if somebody told you you were ugly, you can say, let's say you did have a scar on your face,
Right.
by an accident. But the point I'm trying to make is when I had cancer,
Hmm.
I love this quote. I had cancer, but cancer did not have me.
Hmm.
So you may be ugly, but ugly doesn't have you. So you have
Right.
to decide to be handsome and get out there and show that scar. Be proud of it. You might
Right.
have got it in a knife fight, but you won. I'm just saying, those are the things you got to look for. It's not what happened to me, but how I respond to that.
Mm.
So that a quote. I take a lot of quote, and mostly when I grew up, I couldn't understand words. And today, Paul knows this. I'm not ashamed of it. That's why I tell people who have brain damage don't understand English. I mean, I didn't understand language until 21.
Right.
And
Right.
so before that, I was left out of everybody's conversation. I go
Right.
to movies, I go to church,
Right.
and I have 100 stories about going to church, and they're funny. But that's because I'm just a child. And then when I
Hmm.
grew up, even today, I don't understand what some people are saying.
Right.
I'm a professor at the university, East Tennessee State University.
Hmm.
But this is my end semester because I'm going to try to focus on the book
Right.
and just get speaking engagement. I hope I'm supposed to say that, but anyway, I love to make people happy. I
Right.
really do.
Cool. Fantastic. Okay, so let me pose this question to both of you guys. Uh, in your opinion, what makes a story worth telling or listening to?
Yeah, so he's asking what makes a story worth telling or listening to. So I'll answer first, and then you can give your answer. Yeah. So part of what I teach my clients, and part of what my clients do, is hire me to help them as a leader or a marketer or a salesperson be a better storyteller at work.
Right.
And so the three things I tell them that are the most important is your story needs to have a hero we care about. a villain we're afraid of, and an epic battle between them, right? So the audience needs to see the hero and the villain do battle against each other.
Right.
And that, I know that sounds rather Hollywood, so I typically translate that into more business-friendly language by saying that hero we care about just becomes a relatable main character. So the audience wants to see a main character that they can relate to. Oh, that could be me, that, you know, in that story.
Right.
And the villain we're afraid of just becomes a relevant challenge, the kind of challenge they might find themselves facing someday. So it doesn't actually have to be a real villain, a bad guy in the story.
Right,
It could
right.
be just the business problem they're facing or the mountain they're trying to climb or something like
right.
that. And then that epic battle between them just becomes an honest struggle. Like the audience needs to see the main character struggle with something, or it's just a boring story.
Right.
So there are a lot of other things that I coach people, but those are the most important three, I think.
Okay.
What do you think is the most important thing about a story that makes people want to hear it?
Well, as I said earlier, when I tell it, it's from my heart. I open my whole chest. That's why I wrote part of, and I wrote with the book. It's because there's a lot of dark secrets in that book that my family and friends don't even know. So I hope I still got my family and friends by Christmas, once they read the book.
Yeah.
But I know hopefully they'll still love me. But I'm sharing a lot of trauma, but yet a lot of fun stuff, crazy things that I did, in misunderstood words. So I tell my story from the heart, and that's what everybody tells me. They go, man, you're way out there. I had that experience. I lost a lot of my family. I lost all my family members, my brother and sister, my parents. So today I don't have my own family for Thanksgiving. So I'm spending it with Paul, who's grateful. I kind of adopted them as family,
All right.
And
Okay.
I can't figure out what Paul is calling me, his father, or whatever he's calling me, an old man. But I'm just saying that story should be told with compassion, love, excitement, and waiting for everybody to leave that room to start a new journey and prepare people. Build a bridge, it's like Paul mentioned about telling about the tools, about it.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, like with the crayons earlier, what I learned going through interviewing Kenny and hearing that story was that if you give all kids the same tools, even children like Kenny, you'd be amazed what they can do. So
the book itself is given if people buy the book, we will teach them how to build that bridge to get to the other side. And I'm not talking about success, and that shouldn't be your real focus. Just on the way to building that bridge, we give you the hammer, the blueprint, but you know what? You have to build it, but we'll show you how. And follow through, and then you're on the other side. Then somebody else on that side had problem, issue. They feel lonely, depressed, suicidal, and that's in my book. I live with a lot of depression, and a lot of people don't. They're going, but you're so happy, you're smiling all the time. I said, well, wait till I get off the radio. But I am. I love life. I've had so much happen to me in my life. Every time I wake up, sometimes I'm like, well, Jesus, I want to come home. He goes, not now. You're not finished with the book yet. So I take the best I can and be whoever I run into, because you never know who that person could be an angel to you. Even on a bus, on a train, you may meet him for 10 minutes, but hopefully by you talking to him, telling him a story, we're doing that now. By the time we reverse it, start asking you questions. Well, what do you do in your family? You got kids? And then when you tell me, I hope you do it with a love. And, I have 2 boys. Maybe you got a boy you want to punch out because he's done drugs or something, but don't do that. Try to find the love, because that's what my dad did. I think I'm like I am because of my father. He loved me as his son, not a disabled son or a handicapped son. He loved me as his son, and I feel that.
Okay, great. So this is another question I really need to ask. How did you guys get together, particularly to write this book?
yeah, so we actually met each other because we were both speaking at the same conference. It was the National Storytelling Conference in Covington, Kentucky in June of 2012, I think. And we both were speaking in different rooms, and then when we were off stage, we both went to see another performer in the same room. And I went and sat on the front row, and then Kenny came down and ended up sitting right next to me on the front row with his sign language interpreter with him. who sat in the chair in front of him, facing him with his back to the stage. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, that, a deaf guy would come to a 3-day storytelling festival.
Right,
So
right.
I knew immediately that I wanted to meet him. And so we had lunch that day, and that's how our relationship started.
Great. And from there, I mean, you guys wrote the book. So, Paul, what made you want to write this book with Kenny?
Yeah, well, he's probably the most unique individual I've ever met. I mean, and you probably can tell that yourself now after just 20 or 30 minutes of getting to know him. I've never met anybody quite like Kenny, and I think if I was born with all of the challenges he had, I would imagine that I would be a really angry, bitter person. But
Right.
he's obviously not, and that just fascinated me. How can somebody be so happy and cheerful and charming with all of those struggles? And I kind of just wanted to know why.
Okay,
um,
okay.
so yeah, it was partly my own selfish, journey. I wanted to get to know him better, understand what made him tick. But also, I found out pretty early on that he was interested in having his life story told. Just because he's always been asked after he finishes a performance, "Oh, I want to read all your stories.
Right.
Do you have a book?" And he had always had to say no, because I can't write. It's just
Okay.
part of his intellectual struggle. Is writing is
Right.
just not a strong suit for him. He
Right.
obviously verbally can tell you wonderful stories, but he has
Right.
difficulty writing.
Uh-huh.
So it made for a good team. I said, "Well, I can write, and you can tell great stories, so we could do it together."
All right. Fantastic. So, with this relationship, what have you picked up from Kenny? How has he impacted you as a person and as a storyteller, Paul?
Well, I've learned a lot of humility from him. I mean, when we started this project, I kind of thought of myself like a psychologist or a scientist, or somebody evaluating a patient. I was studying him and his life history so that I could write it as his biographer.
Mhm.
And I pretty quickly realized that wasn't the right way to look at our relationship,
Mhm.
because I was really learning more from him. It wasn't that I should look at him as a patient or a subject of a study. I needed to look at him as my teacher and me as the student.
Right.
So our roles kind of reversed after 2 or 3 interviews, and I realized I just need to be a lot more humble with this, because this guy has a lot more to teach me than I thought. Here I am, completely able-bodied, with no learning disability, and multiple degrees, and it was just rather arrogant, actually, that I went into the relationship, and I had to really humble myself and realize that this man has a lot more to teach me than I'm giving him credit for. And that changed things. I learned a lot more after that.
All right. Great. Cool.
I want to say real quick. I want him to share with you this. When I met the family for the first time, they were fascinated. That's why 4 days with Kenny Tedford. We spent 4 days, and I was telling stories like from 8 in the morning to 6 at night,
Okay.
and we had breaks between, and so because Paul told me when I was coming down here to start writing this book, he said, "Don't expect to go see a museum. We're not going downtown. We're not going to see the river. We're not going to go to it. We're going to write this book." And I
Right.
thought he was nuts. I'm not going to tell stories from 8 to 6. You're insane. But I hope if I can go 1 hour. And so
Right.
we did it. I couldn't believe what he pulled out of me.
Uh-huh.
And so I would like for him to share real quick, because this means the world to me. His son about the cereal box for Champion.
Yeah. So
So that's showing how a child sees me compared to Paul.
my youngest son, who was 9 years old at the time when Kenny first came to visit for us to do the interviews to write the book, and of course, my boys and my wife got to hear him tell a lot of his stories while he was here. Well, then we wrote the first draft of the book, by a couple of years later, and he had a project at school where he had to read a book and write a book report about it, and then create some pictures and
Cereal box.
design a cereal box with the name of the book and stories from the book all around it, and some other things. And so he chose the book we were writing, as opposed to one from the library at school. He chose our book, and he read it. And so he has up in his room still,
Yeah.
or we sent it to you, didn't we?
Huh?
Did we send it to you?
Yes.
The series. So you have it.
Yes, I have it.
Yeah. So Kenny now has the cereal box that my
Nice.
9-year-old son made with lots of the stories from the book around it.
The cereal, I don't know if y'all have it over there, but it's called Champion.
Yeah.
Oh,
About heroes, sports
Yeah,
cat
yeah.
people.
We've
That's
got
what his
those.
son showed. But then I'm thinking, I was trying better, and I felt bad for Paul because he should be the hero, not me. So again, this is just something I was so touched by. A 9-year-old boy I just met. We didn't talk that much. He just seen me talking, I guess. But I did tell him a story that I thought I'd never say publicly, but it's in the book, and
Okay.
it's about a haunted house.
Mhm.
But his son seems to love it. And he has an older son. At that time, he was
14.
14. And Paul got me to tell that story in front of the two boys and his wife. And I thought Paul had lost his mind because I've
Okay.
never told this
It's a
to
little
young
bit.
people.
It's a little bit racy.
Okay.
It sounds like a racy adult story.
Okay.
It turns out it's not, but it sounds that way. So he was worried that I was getting him to tell it in front of my wife and kids. But
But I mean, just to let you know, that I'm not going to say it's a story because I want them to buy the book. It's called How I Lost My Manhood in a Haunted House with 3 Deaf People. If you want to hear the rest of the story, go get the book.
Right, right, of course, of course. Okay, so what would is there anything you'd like people to get from reading this book? To both of you, question to both of you
yeah.
guys.
So he wants to know what you hope people learn from the book.
Number one, it's actually to love yourself. And it's not easy. Some people are being abused at home. They're being called retarded or stupid, worthless, no good. A lot of kids today are committing suicide because there's too much pressure. But if I can do this, there's still hope. And so I want them to be able to find their dream and believe in themselves. And, I wish I could help everybody. But there's a lot of families may not know this, but parents with deaf children, parents of hearing, 98% of parents with deaf children do not sign.
Mm-hmm.
98%. So all these deaf are growing up lonely. And
Right,
they go to church with no interpreters.
right.
And, so you're in a silent world. I hear noise. That's all I hear. For you, I just can't really hear anything. But with Paul, I don't hear him hardly at all. I just read his lips. And so it's still amazing far I came. But I want everybody to love themselves. Look in the mirror. You're the greatest hero you could ever meet. You are, not those around you.
Yeah. So the longer answer to that question is actually in the last chapter of the book. We outline, I think it's 27 different life lessons.
Right.
About half of them are lessons for people who have disabilities themselves about how to navigate life and be more successful. And the other half of them are for people in their family who love and take care of them, advice for them to help their disabled person, thrive and survive better. So we tried at the end of the book to draw out all of the appropriate life lessons. So they're all in there.
Right. Okay.
I mean, if you look at anybody in a wheelchair, my dearest friend named Marty, he's quadriplegic. But what I see is Marty. I forgot about the wheelchair. There's hilarious stories that I did with him. I could walk through a door and let go of the door and then slam in front of him. And he's just outside looking at me and it's pouring down rain. I'm going, oh, I forgot you're in a wheelchair.
Right.
So I had to go open the door again.
Right.
And he's like, what is wrong? Then he'll turn his head away from me and start talking. And everybody's laughing and go, what are y'all laughing at? Marty's making fun of you. I can't read your lips. It's just like you slammed the door in my face. So you gotta find the humor, but you have a neighbor, if you're a teacher, you have a child in your class with a disability, don't look at the disability. If he does something wrong or she, punish him like you do all the other kids. They're not different.
Right. Okay. All right. I got that. Okay.
Do you have the book?
No. So
I don't think so.
Can you mail one?
We could.
so anyway,
I'm hoping, I didn't know, but I was hoping he may mail you a copy of the book. We can sign it. Then you get a book with both signatures.
oh, that'd be fantastic. That'd be great. Would appreciate that. Sure. All right. So let me ask you. I asked this question to Paul in the previous interview. This question for you, Kenny. Let's say you came across someone who was in a situation similar to yours, and you had enough time to tell that person only one thing about how to move forward. What would be that one thing you would tell that person?
So he's asking you, if you met somebody like you and you could only give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Love yourself.
Hmm.
Just be you. Because, see, I've been told I'm handicapped, retarded, dumb, stupid. You can't do this. You can't go swimming. You can't drive a car. You can't do that. And so I tell people, never listen to the word can't.
Mm.
Just whatever your dream is, go for it. If you don't make it, you're still closer to the stars than you are the moon. But continue. You have to be around positive people. And that's what I tell when you become an adult, get away from the naysayers. I think that's the word, naysayer,
Right.
and start hanging around people positive, And so that's what I just tell them is just believe in yourself. And every time you look in a mirror, you're somebody.
All right. Great words. Great words of wisdom right there. All right. So, yeah, I wish we
Yeah,
could.
Mr.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't. Did you hear about that? A mix of Helen Keller and Forrest Gump.
Oh, he did.
Oh, okay.
All
We're
right.
talking about Helen Keller and Forrest Gump. I'm compared to them,
Yeah. Right.
and I
Right.
love it.
Right.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
Great. Great. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I wish. All right, so I wish we could talk more, but time's about out for this interview. So, in closing, then the book is 4 Days with Kenny. The authors, the co-authors, are Paul Smith and Kenny Tedford Jr., and you can find the book on Amazon. So, Paul and Kenny, thank you very much for being Author Story. It was a real blast having you guys on.
You're welcome. It was good to be
Thank
here.
you. It's been a joy talking to you.
You're welcome. So, everyone, check out 4 Days with Kenny Tedford, and while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and check out all of the authors that we've covered to date. And with that in mind, see you guys next time on Author Story, where we speak to another awesome author about their fantastic book.